guys, Thomas Cecilio Jr. here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Despicable Me 3. So, my take on the first two Despicable Me movies is that they're pretty meh, cut of the mill. Both of them sort of have this issue where the middle of the movie tends to be this sort of filler, and I noticed this in this movie as well, Despicable Me 3, and yeah, after seeing it, I was like, this little trilogy isn't as great as I once thought it was. After picking up on the amount of filler each movie has, it's kind of actually lazy. Not that as funny as I remember the first one being, and the second one wasn't even that great. Uh, yeah, it's just I don't know. Anyways, we follow this movie where we see the new villain named something Brat, I should say. Yeah, obvious bad guy name is obvious. And he's kicked out of Hollywood, so he wants to get vengeance. So he becomes a real villain in real life because he played one in Hollywood as a kid. So he uses these bubbles and dancing to get around and stuff like that. And then you saw essentially the entire beginning in the trailer. So uh, we get this car joke again. I believe they used that in the first movie as well. So completely reuse of jokes here as well, or I should say attempt at jokes. Um, we have Lucy returning, the one that Gru ended up with. I believe that's his name, Gru, or something like that. Anyway, um, so they end up going to their little society where they bust bad guys because they're the good guys now. And the main leader of that group retires, and he's replaced by this other uglier lady model who instantly fires Gru, and Lucy, who now have to go about that. So, anyways, the the littlest sister, I believe her name. No, it wasn't Edith, and it wasn't Margot, but shoot, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. I had it in my notes somewhere, but I'll find it eventually. Anyway, she ends up trying to make them feel better, but Groot does eventually break the news, and the minions talk about wanting to be the villains, or going back into villainy. So after the bad news hits, the minions decide they want to quit and they leave, uh, which heads right into the filler, by the way, of the movie. Of course, we gotta follow the minions, and they just sort of pad the movie out for a good chunk of the time. So you see this fat guy who ends up just being Brat in disguise, and then he steals this gem that he stole at the beginning of the movie but failed to do so. So he steals the gem officially. Gru's then jumped by Lucy, uh, who wants to sell her unicorn to help out her dad. They got the other guy out of the movie, the older scientist bad guy, by just saying he was frozen, because I don't remember seeing that happening in the sequel, so I guess that's how they wrote him out of the film completely. Uh, so anyways, uh, Crew visits his mother after learning this information about having a twin brother from out of nowhere. And then, so he wants to do that, and the mother wants to spend time with the children. So they head on over, and they leave with them. And then we head over to Brat to see he has this robot, and we learn about how he wants revenge and stuff, even more so than when we started the film. Anyways, we learn more about Crew's father, and then we learn the brother Drew wants to be a good villain to show his dad, who was also a villain, that he can be a villain too. And Crew decides he's gonna lie and, do that whole liar reveal thing. And then we head on over to the distraction part of the film where we sort of just start following Margot and the kids. And I, I believe that's her name right here, Angus? Or is it someone else? Or Angus or something like that. Anyways, her and Edith are looking for a unicorn. The mother bust in to get them when they're in this little parlor place learning about this unicorn. And then we see Drew and Crew still lollipops and more nonsense, and the minions are making this sing reference, and it's just a whole lot of filler in the middle. So Crew mentions how he wants to steal the crystal back at one point, so Drew wants to help him out. Crew checks in on the smallest daughter for a quick scene, and then we see more Minion stuff, and they started taking over the film again. Uh, anyways, the mother gets excited. She was getting excited because she wanted to tell Crew about something or other, but then he ended up leaving. Meanwhile, the two younger daughters ended up leaving to go find that unicorn. Drew ends up going with Crew, and then that makes more hijinks ensue while they're inside. Minions, they plan their escape, and more music is playing. Meanwhile, Drew and Crew get inside, and then they get Brat to wake up, but they sort of stay hidden for a bit. They end up getting found out, so the Clue, at one point, one of them left behind, but I think it was Drew. It was kind of pointless since they got discovered regardless of without that even needing to be there. Anyways, Brad has his robot, his giant robot. He got the idea from his own television show. And Lucy just happens to appear because she noticed they left, but how did she know where they went is beyond me. So, by all accounts, she just sort of appears by pure luck. Anyways, Joe ends up being disappointed in the truth, and then the brother Crew goes out on him, saying how he's a disappointment to his father, and yada yada yada. The minions fly and sing some more, yada yada yada. The youngest daughter finds out that she ended up finding a goat, and she ends up being cool with that. And then this weird thing happens. I don't know if they skipped a scene, because I was really confused when Brat ended up being Lucy in disguise at one point, and then Crew ended up finding the real Lucy. I don't know how that all came into play. I don't know how he ends up getting these disguises. How did he even know about her in the first place? I don't recall him ever seeing her. So how did he get that disguise is beyond me. That whole... Oh wait, no. Technically, no, she was in the beginning, so I guess that kind of makes sense, but I don't even know how he makes the suits or anything like that. So even if that came across, it is still really weird. Anyway, anyways, Crew tells the truth, and they run into the minions who are heading on the other way, and then they move toward them because they're in these two different flying machines at this point. Brat ends up running through Hollywood, going through with his plan. So the mom has to save the daughters because they get into peril because Crew stole them. And that's how Drew was able to get Crew back into the whole scene thing of that. So, anyways, they crew blast the machine to save Jew, and then Brad sends up some more mini robots because he had some of those earlier in the movie. Uh, Mom gets the kids, and then they end up out of the situation. The minions join the fight, or I should say, fight in quotation marks, with their useless nonsense. Jew saves crew, or is that the reverse? No, that's right. Um, so the robot falls apart, and then crew suggests a dance fight, and then he gets his vengeance on Brad, getting him the same way he got him. Brad got him in the beginning of the movie. The family reunites, and then Drew takes out the minions and plots his next evil scheme for the next movie. Ugh. And to be kind of honest, I'm getting tired of the Despicable Me movies at this point. After sort of getting in on that whole middle section being completely unnecessary fluff, these movies kind of just fall apart for me. The comedy just isn't there. The characters aren't particularly interesting. They sort of have stayed the same throughout the movies. So the escalation of this isn't really anything, and the brother aspect sort of comes out of nowhere. Uh, but it almost feels like it just set up there just to set up the plot to the next movie, which is if they made enough money, I'm sure enough it's going to be Despicable Me 4. But at this point, I'm kind of tired of the series already. This whole middle thing just it completely just takes me out of the movie. So it's meh. And I know I didn't score the previous movie, but I'll give this like a 3 out of 10, I think. It's not that great for me. So that's my review of this movie. And if you like this review, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, everyone. Bye!